All right, everybody. Who do we have here in the chat? Go ahead and jump down in there, guys. Tell me where you're tuning in from. But listen, it's 9 o'clock on a Thursday night. So if you're joining me, I'm excited to have you here. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to talk the top 5 most impactful transfers that I believe for the Oklahoma Sooners. And then we're going to talk about this junior day that's coming up here on March 4th, because you're going to start seeing guys get into town. I would assume either late Friday night or early Saturday for this early junior day visit. We got to kind of talk about it and break it down. But I want you guys to be in the chat. I want you guys to be involved. Additionally, you guys got to hit that like and the subscribe button. Tell me what you were thinking, because listen, we're going to start out at 1 and work our way down to 5 on those transfer lists. Number 5 is left open. And I left it open because we're going to fill in the blank with what you guys think. So going in to the top 5 most impactful transfers for the Oklahoma Sooners in 2023. And I think you have to start off with the obvious, Dasan McCullough. Because if you looked at what he did in his true freshman year, the 6'3", 235-pound or 230-pound linebacker, he was an absolute monster. Easily one of the more coveted kids in the portal this year. He really could have went to any school he wanted to. 48 total tackles, 30 solo tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, 4 sacks. I see the staff using the cheetah a little bit differently this year than what we saw it last year. And I see Dasan kind of playing that linebacker defensive end role, where you'll probably see Reggie Pearson play that linebacker secondary role. So depending on who you're playing, depending on what kind of scheme you need to be in, that's kind of how you might see the cheetah position used. And so, yeah, Dasan McCullough, he's going to be great. And I don't think Oklahoma Sooner fans are going to look back on this take to the transfer portal and be disappointed. And yes, I am assuming he's going to be at the cheetah because he just looks like he's the most fit for it. So on number 2 on this list, I have Walter Rouse. And it's because we had Caden Green come in this recruiting class. And I really thought Caden Green was going to be the answer at that left tackle position because, you were really unsure of what was going to be in the portal. Well, Walter hits the portal. Looks like he committed to Nebraska. But in the 11th hour, Oklahoma, they pull off some just Sooner magic on the recruiting trail and flip just an incredibly important player to this offense. When you think about Dillon Gabriel being a left-handed quarterback, and then all you lost on that left side of the offensive or on the offensive line with Wanye Morris and Anton Harrison, which, guys, Anton Harrison, he's going to tear it up. He's going to tear it up. So be watching. Maybe he'll end up on the Chiefs and be playing with Creed Humphrey and Orlando Brown. One can only hope. But talking about Walter Rouse, 39 starts in 40 career games, 2,552 snaps, 41 QB hurries, 14 QB hits, 13 sacks. That's all that he has allowed in his career. So in 2,552 snaps, he's only allowed 41 QB hurries, 14 QB hits, and 13 sacks. It's pretty damn good, if I have to say so myself. I mean, it's better than what I can do. And you can imagine that with the step up in competition from the Pac-12 to the Big 12, now it's not a huge step up, but it's a step up because he's gonna have to play better defensive lines, and that's potentially going to help him being, of course, being coached by one of the best offensive linemen in the country, or offensive line coaches in the country, maybe even one of the best, I would say, developers in the country. You would expect in one season that Walter is going to increase his draft stock, that maybe where he could have been maybe a 6th or 5th round pick, maybe he ends up being a 3rd or 2nd day pick, depending on kind of how he looks this year protecting Dillon Gabriel, which, by the way, I think people are undervaluing how important it is to have experienced guys on that left side, with Dillon Gabriel being a left-handed quarterback. Just saying. So going into number 3, I've got Rondell Bothroyd, an experienced player that Oklahoma really needed on the defensive line, especially after you're losing, Jeffrey Johnson and Jalen Redmond, 2 defensive players that, let's be honest, if they had another year at Oklahoma, I think Jalen Redmond did, but if they would have been able to stay or actually stayed another year, you're talking about two defensive linemen that really, I think, could have led this team and really been a force to be reckoned with. But Rondell Bothroyd comes from Wake Forest. We've had him here on the podcast, and he blatantly said it. I entered the transfer portal because I wasn't getting the looks at Wake Forest. So he comes to Oklahoma because, well, a common opponent that he had to watch on the sidelines was Brent Venables. And he saw how Brent Venables coached that defense and how he helped work that defensive line. And he wanted to come be a part of it. And when you look at his production in his college career, 136 total tackles, 68 solo tackles, 31 tackles for loss, 15 and a half sacks, and then you have 4 forced fumbles. Rondell Bothroyd was a force at Wake Forest. And you can imagine him in this scheme with Brent Venables and all the other talent around him, he's probably going to flourish. And when you look at starters on that defensive line, Rondell Bothroyd's probably going to be one of them. Now, I'm not going to lie. The defensive ends this year, those people, yeah, I'm really interested in that room. But the defensive line, you really want to see what you're going to get out of those interior guys. Do they move Reggie Grimes and Ethan Downs into the interior? I've seen a lot of you guys not only comment that here, but on other people's streams that you want to see Ethan Downs and Reggie Grimes move into the interior. And I 100% agree with you. I think Reggie Grimes is big enough to play that position, maybe put on a couple more pounds. I think I heard that Ethan Downs was at 280, but so maybe he needs to put on probably another 20. But those guys, I think, would excel there, especially now that you're going to have Jonah Laulu back for the senior season. And by the way, he really started to pick it up late in the season. And we've had him here too. And another thing he said, problem with the defensive ends last year was, they played a lot of good quarterbacks that knew how to get the ball out quickly. And so it was just like a second too late or a millisecond too late to get into the quarterback. So yeah, Sean, I see what you said are saying here. Grimes had a bad season. He had a good start to the season. And ultimately, I know there were some personal things I think that he was going through. And so I don't want to indict him for, falling off of a cliff because I think that's not who Grimes is. And I don't think that's the Grimes we're going to see this next season because Grimes is a dog. He'll go out there and, he'll chase the quarterback around. And we saw that all year last year. He was chasing quarterbacks around left and right. So on number 4 on this list, though, because we'll get back talking about defensive lines later. Number 4 on this list, I've got Austin Stogner. And it's because he's a former Oklahoma player, right? He is here. He left after the old regime left. He went to South Carolina, played with his buddy Spencer Rattler and Shane Beamer, which, by the way, I still to this day think that was the best move for Spencer Rattler and Austin Stogner in their careers because you go out there and you play for the coach that really coached you guys the best that 1 year before he ended up leaving for that job. Getting him back, getting that experience, especially with losing Braden Willis, I think a lot of people overlook how important that tight end role was going to be for us this upcoming season, especially with how Lebby likes to use tight ends. Now, I am going to be curious because we talked about it the other day on Around the Table Sports. That's Ty over there. If you guys haven't seen it, you need to go check it out. I was on there with Drew, Jay, and I believe Chris even came on. And one of the things we talked about was that tight end room is going to be interesting because, yes, you have Stogner, who is an experienced guy. He's tall. He can go out there and make those catches. But you've also got some younger guys in there. And so how is Lebby going to use it? And we've seen Lebby before utilize 2 tight ends. And so it's going to be I'm interested. And we all got to watch it. That tight end room didn't lose Jackson Sumlin to the transfer portal this year. But I don't really think that was going to be a big miss as he wasn't really ever seeing the field anyways. So number 5, we talked about it at the beginning of the show. Number 5, I'm leaving up to you guys. So I want you guys to jump in the comments. Tell me who you guys think the 5th most impactful transfer is. And Hank kind of talked about it up here earlier. I saw him comment this one before the show started. He said, hopefully Reggie Pearson will cause a few career decisions in the secondary And the running back, I can never remember the name, will knock a couple linebackers out next season. So the running back he's talking about is Emeka Megwa, I think it is. If Jay was here, he could tell you all about him because Jay loves that kid. Reggie Pearson. Yeah, Keaton, I see it down here too. The DB from Tech. Yeah, that's Reggie Pearson, which, by the way, we have an interview coming out with Reggie Pearson tomorrow, so y'all want to check that one out. And we just did one with Drew Woodaz. He's the 3-star linebacker that Brent Venables has been recruiting even back to his time at Clemson. He got his brother out there too. So you guys want to go check that one out after this is done. But Reggie Pearson, yes, he is able to go out there and make big plays on the defensive side of the ball, make big hits. I mean, we all watched him in the Texas Tech game completely just lay out Dillon Gabriel. And that's actually a question we asked him. So you guys will have to tune in and find out if he's actually talked to Dillon Gabriel about that hit. But again, I think Reggie Pearson will potentially play a little bit of that cheetah role. And in fact, he even talked about it in the interview, how he's been kind of training in that role a little bit. So I think you'll probably see him there playing a little bit of the secondary when he needs to. So again, I think it's going to depend on scheme, kind of who plays in that cheetah role that day. So it's something that we all need to keep our eyes on. Sean, you say Caleb Schaefer will start over Matire. Ooh, hot take there. I think Schaefer starts. Does he start over Cade, though? Or do they move him around? Or do they move Cade around? I don't know. That's an interesting one. We're going to have to keep an eye on that. Because there are two spots on this offensive line that are open right now. Because I can't remember who was it. It was was it Jacob Sexton that got hurt in the bowl game? Or it was one of the two that got hurt in the bowl game. Josh, you're talking about the Notre Dame defensive line transfer, Jacob Lacey. Yeah, so I actually kind of went back and forth on putting Jacob Lacey on this list. And I ended up not putting him on the list because I really haven't seen much from I just totally blanked on his name. I haven't seen much from him, right? Jacob Lacey. And so statistically, it's not there for me to put him up there. But I mean, definitely the upside is all there. I saw one up here earlier. Topher, Andrell Anthony. Yes. Okay. So this is another one kind of just like Jacob Lacey, where it's okay. He's got some stats, but they're not like starting consistent stats. And so, yeah, like when you look at his intangibles and how fast Andrell Anthony is, he's going to be a target for Dillon Gabriel. But how important will he be in that offense? Because I believe wide receiver 1 is Jalil Farouk. You would believe wide receiver 2 is Drake Stoops. Who's wide receiver 3? Is it Andrell Anthony? Is it LV Bunkley Shelton? Is it JJ Hester? Is it Jaden Gibson? Nick Anderson? DJ Graham? Because I think a lot of people forget DJ Graham is a wide receiver now. You even got Brandon Harper on the offense this year, which I don't know if he plays wide receiver this year. I could see him being in the second on the special teams, maybe returning kicks. Again, really athletic kid. He's got a lot of speed to him. And he's a fan favorite with you guys. I mean, we've seen you guys jump into Twitter mentions and definitely pulled this guy up a lot. So hope Gibson can catch. Jaden Gibson. Listen, I think Jaden Gibson and Nick Anderson will be able to catch. I think, being a whole year into the system and into a college system, I think they'll have developed a little bit better. And worst comes to worst, you're throwing a 6'6" or something dude out there. I mean, now listen, I'll take those odds any day. Putting a taller guy out there on a lot of DBs in college football. So anyways, continue to jump in the comments below and let me know what y'all's number 5 most impactful player is for the Oklahoma Sooners. And we might talk about it again here at the end of the show.